What's up?
Not much, man.
Welcome back. Another episode of C-Suite Unfiltered.
Yes, sir.
I feel like we haven't introduced ourselves in a while. So
Yes.
I'm Lee Park. You're
Oh,
Mike
you're right. We
Andes.
don't really. Dude, I need to come close to the camera because you're looking way bigger than I am.
Oh, sorry. Well, I'm also substantially bigger than you are, so.
I know, but for the sake of optics,
Yeah, fair
it's
enough.
one thing I can look halfway decent on camera because you can adjust these things.
Yeah. I'm Lee Park.
Yes, I'm Mike
You are
Andes.
Mike Andes.
Thank you.
CEO of Augusta Lawn Care. So,
Yeah.
And it's your birthday. Happy
Yes,
birthday.
Thank you.
It is also Kevin Fairburn's birthday.
Yep.
Happy birthday, Kevin Fairburn. And probably someone else out there.
Yeah.
So happy birthday.
I challenge people to find a person born on September 13th that isn't a pretty nice person.
Yeah.
Yeah, Kevin's pretty awesome. So I
Great
feel
guy.
good-
Had a
good
coaching
company.
call with him yesterday.
Oh,
Awesome
really?
guy.
Cool.
Yeah. So, happy birthday to you and others.
Yep.
Now, egg on my face. 28 or 29?
28.
28. Okay. See, it always throws me off because I know we're like that year and a half apart. So there's part of the year where we're close together, and then we're 2 years. So
Yeah.
I'm 29. So
Yeah. Do you have, how people say like the reason they called Forever 21 is because like that's always the age people kind of on from 17, 18, 19, they always want to become older. And then after 21, they say typically people want to become younger. What was the age for you that
Ooh.
you thought you peaked?
Oh. I mean, I still like to think like, I'm still going up.
No, like legitimately, like
yeah.
instead of just thinking that way, like
Yeah.
what's the number for you?
Yeah, I'd say probably like 24, 25.
Okay.
Well, maybe 26. I feel like it was only a few years ago. I think a couple years of college, a couple years of adulthood, and then a couple years at Augusta has really kind of framed who I am as a person.
Yeah.
So I'd say, like 24 to 26, somewhere in that zone when I was like kind of in the field or managing at Augusta, had got a college degree, felt like I was figuring out life as an adult. Those were some good years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's cool, man.
That's when I got married. So, yeah.
I definitely think like
What about you?
my next 10 years are going to be my best years of my life.
Nice.
Like I'm really looking
Cool.
forward to it. I think 28 to 38 is like a super cool time. Like health wise, I'll be fine still. Because after 40, things happen that are kind of somewhat out of your
Yeah,
control. Like
yeah.
you just like ache and everything.
Totally.
Which I'll obviously do my best against that. But like I'll be super healthy still. And I feel like every year that goes by, I'm learning a lot. And every year is getting better in my life. Like it's a
Yeah.
very
That's
privileged
good.
place to be, and
Yeah.
I appreciate that, and I'm thankful. But like when I look back, it's always like, man, things are going so slow. And I look at the past year, like, okay, like a year ago, we didn't have Copilot. I hadn't started working on the AI stuff with Max. I didn't have my boat license, like
Yeah.
all this stuff, right? And so I'm really looking forward to the future. And
cool.
yeah, in the macro, everything looks very good.
Good. I feel like I have never made this connection before, so you won't get the reference.
Okay.
You're not a big TV guy.
Yeah.
But for those of us who have spouses and want to watch sitcoms together, you remind me a lot of a character called Chris Traeger from Parks and Rec. Ultra positive, and he's like in his 40s, and there's an episode where he goes to the doctor, and like he has like some sort of like, what's like cartilage buildup? What's that called?
Like arthritis?
Arthritis. Yeah. He's like getting like arthritis, and he's like, my body is killing me. Like, cause he's like, he runs like 50 miles a day. Like he's the stereotypical, like always nice, always healthy character. And then he gets something that he can't control, and he's like, I'm dying. Like,
But arthritis
that's
you
what-
can fix. You can
Well,
fix
it's
that.
something like that, but he's
Yeah.
basically like, I'm dying. So you remind me of Chris Traeger. Like you're just gonna keep going up, and then one day you're gonna have something, and you're gonna be like, I'm dead. I'm dead. It's all over.
Oh,
like no,
man.
not really. So,
Yeah.
well, I did want to ask. So the 28. Now that I know the number, 28. So you officially launched Augusta when you were 18 years old.
Yeah. So we're
right?
going into our 10th year.
We're going into your 10th year. Yeah, that's what I wanted to talk about. This marks entering the 10th year of Augusta. Had a question: is what would you have told yourself 10 years ago if you had the chance? Like
interesting.
18-year-old you
Yeah.
go back in time, you get to sit down.
So I remember my 18th birthday really, really well. Because
Okay.
it was one of the only birthdays that they kind of did a big thing for me.
Yeah.
And it was, I was finishing my college degree as well. So I was
Mm-hmm.
kind of like quote unquote graduating with my class that was in high school. But I was finishing my 4-year degree.
Mm.
And a week after my birthday is when I left to Africa. So at my birthday, they just gave money towards my trip. And so I remember it really clearly, and like that's 10 years ago from today is like when we
Yeah.
had the birthday. And so 10 years ago, I hadn't even gone to Africa yet. And so
Wow.
like it, what it does for me is like when I look at that, okay, the past year, 10 years, I switched from like purely academic to like very much business side. And then like I didn't have the experience 10 years ago of what I went through with Africa. And like that's completely changed. Like I think about it every day. Like it's very much in my head. And so I might actually do something at a conference kind of commemorating the
Cool.
and show a couple pictures of
Yeah.
like some of the kids that I had relationships
Cool.
with over there and stuff. So because that really molded my life.
Yeah, yeah.
And so, yeah. And then we just passed, what was it, 16? So it'd be 8 years since I got stuck underneath the dump truck.
Yeah.
So, yeah, just interesting times, dude.
Yeah.
So, I don't know where I was going with that, but yeah, 10 years ago, hadn't gone to Africa, hadn't started Augusta yet because I got back from the trip and started Augusta.
Right.
So
So just reflecting on all of it, that's where I want to ask, like, you get in a time machine, you go back, you talk to yourself, pre or post Africa, you pick.
Can't.
What would you tell yourself? Like, what's the conversation you have?
well, when I got back from Africa is when I decided, like over the next 3 or 4 months after that, is when I decided I wasn't going to the medical field.
Yeah.
So what would I tell myself? In the moment, I'd probably just have to tell myself like, hey, you're going to question yourself for the next like 5 years.
Yeah.
But it'll be okay.
Yeah.
And so, cause like, yeah, like the first 5 years of Augusta, we were growing quickly, but like I didn't have anything to really show for it. I was still living at home. And even until like a year ago, I was living in the closet.
Yeah.
So like there wasn't much to show for it.
Yeah.
And so you're always looking, even though I'm not super materialistic, you're looking for evidence that you made right decisions in life. And so it's difficult when you're like, okay, so now I would have been graduating from medical school. Okay, now I would have been graduating from my fellowship. Now I would have been able to do surgery. And you're comparing yourself against what you could have been. And that's like an unhealthy place to be.
Yeah,
but because
fair.
I was on that track, like so hardcore in my life for so long, like that's all I did was like read textbooks. Like I didn't have an email until I went to college.
Yeah.
So like I was not into TV and like all you guys know
Yeah.
music. I'm not into that stuff. So like it was school. And it wasn't pushed on me from my family, but it was like, that was what I was doing.
Yeah.
And so like when I got out of that and jumped off that train, I was still comparing myself to that train.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, I would be finishing med school. Okay, now I'd be doing this. I'd probably be moving back home now. And like, how much would I be earning then versus now? And so as I've always talked about the franchisees, like success, especially in business, is not linear. And so, it's only been probably in the past couple of years where I could say like confidently that like from a financial perspective and success perspective, and life fulfillment perspective, like that was the right decision.
Yeah.
Like, I have no questions about that now, but I can't say that 5 years ago when it was like we really were grinding. I was trying to figure out systems and like stripping down the business and just trying to get me out of like working 80 hours a day on the field.
Do you feel like there was a tipping point at the 5-year mark? Like we've been talking a lot about like 10-year swings, but you said I would go back and tell myself that the next 5 years you're going to doubt yourself a lot. So was there something that switched at the 5-year mark, or just an interesting line that you drew there?
I think it became clear that like that it was going to become successful.
That's because I joined in year 4. So Liz joined in year 3. I joined in year 4, and then you're like, oh, okay. Kidding.
I don't know. I think it was just like a part of it was like I was so deep, right? Now I had $1 million business. Now I'd started making videos. I had like all of 5,000 subscribers, which at the time was huge to me. And so I felt like there was a clear path to success.
Yeah.
Versus when I got off the medical train, like I did lawn care because there was nothing else I knew how to do.
Right.
And it wasn't like this is what my mission in life is going to be. And so I think 5 years in, it became very clear to me like where the problems were in the industry, the problems with technology I thought I potentially one day could solve. It became clear that I wanted to franchise in order to reach those goals. And so like 5 years ago is when I shared with the team what my thought was. And I was like, we're going to franchise. This is how we're going to change the industry. And, technology to me at the time, I had done more tech. I was closer to tech 5 years ago than I am now in terms of, I should say 5 years ago, I hadn't started any more tech stuff, but I was pretty close to what I was doing in college when I was actually developing. And so sharing all that 5 years ago was very much, okay, now I have a direction and I know kind of where I'm going. And, the past 5 years hadn't necessarily been easy at trying to get that direction, but at least I had a direction. Whereas the first 5 years, I was like, I'm not doing medical school. The only thing I know how to do is lawn care, so let's just do that.
Right.
And so.
Yeah, that makes sense. I actually, it was funny. I had a Snapchat memory. So like sometimes you can save snaps. And I had a Snapchat memory from 6 years ago, 2 days ago, or 3 days ago. And it was, it marked my first day at Augusta too.
Let's go.
So
When?
like my anniversary is right around September 10th. So it was the memory, because the Snapchat picture was of a work party with my previous coworkers. It was an end of season work party.
Yeah.
And actually, this was really funny. I distinctly remember having a conversation with one of my former coworkers. They're like, how's your new job? And I was like, and I was a park ranger at the time. So I was working at the park. I was kind of a maintenance guy, fixing things. Sometimes I would mow, this, that, or the other. And I distinctly remember I said, if we worked half as hard as I work at this new company, we would have an immaculate park. I distinctly remember that conversation. And it's kind of like nostalgia, and I guess it's kind of like a grounding statement for me, kind of you talking about like your process through the years. And for me, it's like, that's kind of a grounding statement. Like, that's how we do it at Augusta, is like, if anyone worked half as hard as us, like, they could achieve cool things. And that's like a mentality I like to have. And obviously that statement was about how I worked in the field. And the first day I worked in the field was hauling cobble rock all day with a former military member as well who was on the team. So yeah, I think it's cool to look back at like the history. And I wanted to ask, because obviously, birthdays is kind of like, I feel like time of reflection, looking back, looking forward. Do you feel like that in the last 10 years, there was something like what I just shared that like kind of grounded you through those 10 years? Like there was certain books, phrases, like mantras. Was there anything that kind of kept you going through those 10 years?
Not really. Like the trip to Africa is the thing that anchored me, like I think for the rest of my life. Yeah. So like I don't talk about it a lot because there was some stuff that happened there like pretty hard for me to talk about. So, but it was like, it kind of just puts in retrospect everything that happens like on a daily basis, like stresses and stuff like that. And even though like I definitely get like react to the stresses and I'm trying to work on that, I can always go back to like, okay, like remember what was happening there and compare it to your life. And like it doesn't matter what's happening with AI and your PHP software and your database in AWS, like your life is just great. Not just good. It's fantastic. And there's nothing to complain about. And so it grounds me in a lot of those things. But it also pushes me to build bigger and better. Like the reason for getting more for me now is like, it's pretty clear. Like even in the past few weeks, I've been just clarifying like, why do I keep growing? And like, what's the point of building $1 billion business? And it's becoming clear as to why that is. And so I'm looking forward to it, dude.
Yeah. There's it related, so I had to pull out my phone because I was recently talking about this quote with my wife. And it's from Anthony Bourdain. I don't know if you know who that is.
Isn't that the FBI dude?
No, he used to be a traveling chef, like a famous chef. Oh. He had a show called No Reservations.
But doesn't he have a book?
Yeah.
The yellow one?
Was he like an FBI? I don't know. I don't know. I'm not like a huge fan of his.
Oh, okay.
But I have a couple friends that are like really big fans of his. And he has this famous quote, and it's kind of interesting because you're saying like Africa put things into perspective. It really shaped how the rest of your life. That's what you just said. And here's this quote. He said, "If I'm an advocate for anything, it's to move as far as you can, as much as you can, across the ocean or simply across the river, walk in someone else's shoes, or at least eat their food," because he's a chef, right? Yeah. And my wife and I were talking about it. We were like, that's just like such a cool philosophy to live life by. And we've both traveled a lot. We've both been blessed to have, opportunities to travel. She was a missionary's kid for a while. She lived in El Salvador. And it is cool when you have those experiences that kind of ground you, right? And give you a new perspective in life. And I feel like more people need to do that. And I'm not saying like do some crazy existential trip to Africa, but like go travel to a different state, like work for someone else for a day, like learn from someone else, go get out of the country. If you're in the US, like one of the biggest pieces of advice is like get out of the US. I think you've said that before too. Yeah. So do you feel like that is something like cultural experiences are what ground people, or your specific experience is what grounded you because of what you saw and dealt with? Because yours was obviously different, right?
Yeah, like probably a little bit of both, because like part of it was like in the clinics and then part of it was in the orphanages. So from a cultural perspective, it was probably like being in the orphanages, and then like being robbed a couple times also kind of does something to you too. It's like I think every high schooler should go overseas, and it's not just Africa. Like the one place I haven't gone is China. Like I think that's a good framework too. And what I would now be really interested in is like the mentality around government and the mentality around economics from their perspective, right? Like I just don't think you can do it without getting there. And so and it just gives you way better frames in life to work with when you have perspectives outside of an American one, outside of your family's one, outside of your town's one, outside of your industry's one. Yeah. And these are all frames that I think, like, if broken, you can get better perspective on life in general. Yeah.
I think one of the benefits too, it's not drastically different, but we live close to the Canadian border. Yeah. So like there are different cultural norms, there are differences. So like I think you and I both I knew you moved around a lot, but once your family settled up here, like you kind of got that. Like you had friends and family from across the border. You understood that culture. You traveled up there, and your mom's from Australia. Okay. Yeah. I always forget if it's Australia or New Zealand. Yeah. So
it's just super helpful. Like, I just think like during your teens, I did a lot of it, so it's not like I regret not doing it, but I think everyone should travel a lot to other countries.
Yeah.
And Europe is obviously great from a tourist perspective, but like when I went there, like I learned a lot of like, okay, these are things that like culturally I like. These are things like I would never want to live here because X, Y, and Z. Like I feel like there's always this oppression. Like I don't like these certain type of things. And so even when when COVID came up in 2020 and I started feeling that same way in the US, it's like, okay, that's what I felt back in Europe when we were doing these things, and this is what happened. And so I was like, okay, like that's not the kind of government I'm a huge fan of.
Yeah.
And so and then it just kind of molds even the way like I run the businesses and stuff like that. Like obviously we talked a lot with the franchisees recently, but like my philosophy on leadership kind of stems from a lot of that sort of thing, and like the way that someone feels as a follower underneath leadership, whether it be government, business, family, etc. And like there's pros and cons to every single way of leadership, but like those are somewhat molded by these different scenarios you put yourself in, where you are a follower and then you feel, hey, how does this feel? Do I feel like I need to run? Do I feel like I need to hide? Do I feel like I need to lie? Do I feel like I need to do anything outside of what is quote unquote right, because of the way I'm being led? And so whether it be governments, like traveling is super helpful, I think.
Yeah, no, I have to agree with that. Jumping back to kind of, if you went back to talk to your 18-year-old self, this is an interesting thought exercise. If you had the choice, you could go back 10 years and tell your 18-year-old self everything you've done and accomplished and all the mistakes and all the successes, or would you rather go forward 10 years, see where you're at in 10 years, learn all of that information, and then come back to the present?
Oh, dude, the latter, not even close.
Yeah.
100%. Because
of scale?
No, because if you knew that you were going to be successful in life, like if it was 100% guaranteed, the game becomes boring. So if you would have told me 10 years ago, when I was, just coming back, say from Africa, that like, okay, this is the right decision for you to do lawn care. I know like this, you're scared and whatever, but like,
don't go under dump trucks.
Tell other people to get lost. Like you're going to be super successful, and like there's all these great things that are going to happen. It would not have been as awesome. Like the journey would not have been cool. So like if everyone's like, well, I want this certain goal. It's like, do you want the goal or do you want the struggle of attaining the goal? Because if I could guarantee you that you'd become a billionaire, like there's no doubt in my mind in 20 years or let's say 10 years, this is happening. Well, then like, I know it's happening. So like, I would just sit back. I wouldn't push myself. I wouldn't become better. I wouldn't strive to become the best I possibly can be. The people around me would suffer for that. The team members that I lead would suffer for that. And so the struggle and the strife of obtaining a goal is far greater than the goal itself. And so I've only recently come more and more in love with that and okay with that. And like realizing when I'm like feeling horrible, like this is what it's all about. Yeah. Because if I had guaranteed success, I wouldn't feel this way. I'd just be like, doesn't matter. In 10 years, I'll be a billionaire, whatever. Yeah. Right. So I think it's just a very cool experience to be in the journey. And I think that's robbed as soon as you know the destination.
But you just said like you would want to jump forward.
But see, if I jump forward and I just got everything I knew. So if I could take everything from 10 years and I knew.
Oh, you just want the knowledge.
I just want the knowledge.
But you don't want the game plan. You don't want the don't make this decision, don't make that decision.
Because that's the only thing I lack.
Gotcha.
The only thing between me and obtaining my goals, whether it be helping other people or making more money or building the businesses or whatever, is simply my knowledge and my ability to change and grow. And so that's just become more and more evident as time's gone on. And so if I could just take that and pull it to now, the journey would just get accelerated and make it that much more thrilling.
Yeah, that's fair.
So,
and you could hopefully have more impact, positive impact.
Yeah, like the whole reason making more money is like it just compounds how much you can do.
Yeah.
So
I think in 10 years you're gonna be a Porsche guy.
Porsche?
Yeah. You just look like a Porsche guy to me.
I don't know if I want nice cars, dude. I really don't think I do.
Yeah. And that's one thing that hasn't been like you've never really talked about it. What's
I do like nice cars.
I know you like.
I know all the cars.
Yeah. What's your nice thing? Like 10 years, Mike Andes. You've got some money. You've helped a lot of people. You've given a lot back. Do something for yourself. Like, what are you doing?
See, the thing. I would never buy a boat. But if there was a boat club that was above mine, like where it was more yacht-like, I would be considering it because I could take my family for like a weekend. Right now, like I can sleep by myself for a weekend. Like these are smaller boats, right? Yeah. So that would look interesting. Cool. Obviously, we live around a ton of islands too. Yeah. So a lot of people like when they think about boat, they think like a lake or they think about like the open ocean of Florida. We have like within an hour's drive I don't know, float,
sail,
sail. Within an
Voyage.
hour voyage, you can dock at like 30 different islands.
Yeah.
And it's awesome. And so I think that, and I've already used the boat a ton for like getting ready for conference, starting to write up my book. And like, I think it's
You took the co-pilot team out.
No, that's coming this Friday. That's
No,
this Friday.
I thought you took a picture with the
Oh,
co-pilot
that
team.
was on the weekend. Yeah, but
Yeah.
sorry. I mean, media team is this Friday.
Media team, nice.
Media team, we're going
nice.
out and we're like redoing. We're working, but
Cool.
it's gonna be on the boat. 'Cause
Yeah,
we knew it
that's
was
cool.
gonna be a few hours.
Yeah.
And I'm like, hey, you know what? This is great.
Yeah,
and
that's cool.
I'll get the management team out there
Yeah.
eventually and stuff like that. So
Yeah, you extended the invite. It just didn't work with my plans. So I got another boat to be on that weekend. So apologies.
a larger boat.
Yeah, a larger boat, different boat club. Cool. Yeah, no, I just kind of wanted to look back at your life and 10-year swings. Like this is a 10-year swing of adulthood, if you will. So yeah, any other final thoughts on that? Any major takeaways at 28 years old?
No, dude. I'm just looking forward to it.
Yeah.
Every year now, I'm like, it's just like, I really wish I had more. Like, I always talk about higher lows and lower highs, but like, I am speaking to myself in the mirror. Like every single day and week, like I am the epitome of like what I don't want to. What I tell other people not to do. And that's like high highs and like this is awesome, and then like low lows.
Yeah.
And so I think I am getting better and better at being introspective. I'm hopefully getting better at taking some of those things out, and the high highs are great and the low lows are pretty gnarly.
Yeah.
And so when I get a lot of low lows, like it's definitely hard. And like the hardest thing for me is when people question my intentions, because, and I understand why I think people should, especially when it comes to like people that talk about stuff online, people that have money, they should be questioned. Like it's a check of power, I think, but it's very hurtful, honestly, like when you have intentions that are very pure and then people come out of left field and things you didn't think about. And so that's been really hard for me recently. And I'll figure it out. And I have ways of like justifying, okay, like they don't have all the information I have. They haven't done, seen everything, all angles that I have. And so that's the part I'm probably the most susceptible to, is when my intentions that are good are taken wrong. And I didn't even think about that like as a potential outcome or a potential like thought process. So I need to become better at like being more confident in like my intentions were pure. Whether or not someone sees those as good or bad is on them. It's just like hopefully the track record of that decision over time wins them back, and they trust more that like I am looking out for people's best intentions typically. And so yeah, it's just like I get hurt too much by that, and so it's something I need to work on.
Yeah, that's fair.
All right, so thank you for the birthday wishes. Now I'm gonna pivot back on
HBD.
you. New subject.
Yeah.
We've mentioned it before,
Yeah.
and it's partly why we've talked about having this podcast, and that is that a lot of people are thinking about joining Augusta, they kind of use this as a way to filter things out, because I don't talk a lot about Augusta on the main channel, and also they have to talk to you before they get anywhere when it comes to joining. So I wanted to go over what keeps someone from joining in terms of like when you have a call with them and you're like, what are the red flags?
Yeah.
I know obviously for the first like 40 or 50 locations, I think 45.
48.
Oh,
Yeah.
Not that we're counting.
Not that I'm counting.
The first
No,
48
no.
locations,
Never.
I did all the vetting and sales
Yeah.
and getting them set up. And now from 48 to 136 or whatever, you've done them all. And so I wanted to go over, I know you've systematized it a lot more from when I did it. When for me, it was like, is this a nice person? And like, I was kind of like, and like I would just talk to them enough to know whether or not they'd be a good fit. Now it has to have more procedures and systems in place. And then as my public figure, kind of, people know me more, they come on the call with you. It's going to be a little bit different, as well as it attracts way more different type of people sometimes. So I wanted to go over what are the red flags you can see.
Yeah.
And then a couple other things from there. So take the floor.
Yeah, red flags. Can I put that aside?
Okay,
And
red
start
flags.
about how I start the call.
Okay.
Now I've never asked you this. You when you started letting me do franchise sales onboarding, initial calls, whatever we want to call them, you gave me some recordings. You're like, hey, watch these, learn. Let me know if you have any questions. I was like, pretty straightforward. Like I know most of the information, but it's more the mannerisms, how you talk to them, what you want me to say, and I start the call by making sure it's not a sales pitch. And right away, sometimes that either makes people a little bit more nervous because they're like, oh, like this is a conversation, like I'm gonna have to talk, or it relaxes people. Now, neither of those are a red flag. If you get a little bit more nervous, that's fine. You just were expecting me to do most of the talking. I'm not at the beginning of a call, typically. And that's an approach I've chosen to take. And I think for the latter people, it helps bring down the walls. It makes them feel more comfortable that, okay, this guy isn't just going to pitch me the whole time we're on this call. We're going to talk and have a conversation. So that's how I start the call. And usually based on how people react, like if they just want to get straight to numbers, if they, don't want to get to know me or me get to know them, that's like a yellow flag, not a red flag. I want to see like, hey, can you have a conversation with me? We're both taking time out of our day. I want to treat you with respect just as a person, also professionally. And the people that want to jump straight to business, not a horrible thing, but this is a 10-year relationship that's going to involve our emotions, our families, whatever it may be. And so I need to know, like, you're willing to be open about that stuff before we jump straight into the numbers. Mm-hmm. So that's kind of how I start the calls. Red flags, jump straight into that. What do you think I will say is the biggest red flag? The
biggest red flag, in my opinion, would be if they come across as like a hardcore fan instead of a business person.
Yeah, I would probably agree. That's probably like 1A, and then there's a 1B. Like I would say.
Let me guess 1B. Okay.
Yeah.
I know that one, and I knew I would look out for.
Yeah. People that are fans, they're great, but this is, once again, it's a 10-year commitment. It's a business relationship. You don't just get to hang out with Mike Andes.
Yeah. Which would be horrible. So let me see. Second thing.
It's not a trick. Think like
maybe if they think they're gonna grow, like if they only talk about growth very quickly.
No.
Okay.
It's a small thing, but I think it matters. I'll give you a hint, like management style.
Oh, if you think they're gonna be, like no open book stuff.
No.
What?
It's if they speak negatively about their current employees.
Yeah, I remember that.
If you get on a call with me and you hop in and you're like, and this employee does this and this one doesn't listen to me, and it's like, all right, well, I'm gonna hold up a mirror and you can look at yourself because it is your business. Yeah. Don't blame your employees. Yeah. So if someone comes on a call, those are the first two red flags, 1A, 1B, however you want to categorize them. Are you just a fan of Mike Andes? You want to hang out with Mike? You want to hang out with Augustans? Like, cool, come to the conference, say hi to us, support the channel. Like, thanks for booking a call. Yeah. This is a business relationship.
And to clarify, like, too, it's okay to talk about negative things that happen with employees.
Yes.
But it's like, what's the
context.
Disposition of the owner during that? Like, did they get in a massive argument and push somebody? Mm-hmm. Was it like an ugly firing? Do they talk ill will of someone who did just leave, for example? Like, I always look for, when people just leave, do people talk negatively about them? Like, especially when there was no context why they left. Yep. It's like, look, they just moved on, and maybe they did have things against you, but that doesn't mean you should just say negative things about them.
Yeah.
So
yeah, it's not necessarily sharing negative experiences, especially if, let's say, you have a struggling business and you want to join Augusta. And you're like, hey, the systems at Augusta, P for P, the software, whatever, is going to help change the culture, help my employees, help me be a better manager. That's fine. But it's like you said, it's the disposition, it's name calling, it's blaming the employees for everything. Like, that's not that mentality, that attitude just isn't going to work at Augusta. I had someone call their employee a dimwit. And I was like, I'm sorry, but what are you going to call me as your coach? What are you going to call Mike if you don't like a decision he makes for the franchise? If you're openly calling someone a dimwit on a call, that's a little aggressive there.
Did I ever send you the video of the guy that was smoking pot on his call?
You told me about it.
Oh, really?
I had a guy.
I so wish I would have saved the video.
Yeah.
Oh man, I did 2 calls. Yeah. 2 calls with this guy, and it wasn't because the second one I was trying. He was desperately wanting to get in. So he booked another intro call because that front intro call is open on the site. Mm-hmm. So you can just kind of book another one. Whereas we send them a link to a different call if there's opportunity and we think they're a good fit. But he kept booking the intro call. So eventually I had to block him on Calendar. If this email or this phone number shows up, do not let him book. But it was 2 calls, and he was literally just blowing smoke into the camera. Yeah. I was like, oh my word, dude. Pot, not just a cigarette either. So I was like, oh man.
Yeah. I don't have anything against that particularly, but it's a business call, right?
Dude.
Assume that we are having a business discussion. Yeah. This isn't just a casual hangout. I had a guy, it had to be close to a world record, 5 full cigarettes in a 45-minute call. I was like, this guy is putting up some numbers. It doesn't hey, if you smoke, that's your thing, whatever. But I was 5 on one call, 45-minute call.
But he has electric mowers, so he's making up
Yeah.
for it.
So yeah, like general professionalism, kind of getting back to red flags, like
Yeah.
treat it like a business call.
Yeah.
I'm going to be on time. I'm going to have my camera on. I understand if like you're out in the field or, you're having a busy day, like most of the guys we're talking to are business owners. So yeah, if you're in the truck, totally fine. I get it. Most of my calls are with guys in their truck or out on a job site, but like, you book the call, sit down, put your camera on, and like talk to me. You don't have to look all clean and nice or put on like a nice shirt. Like if you're on the field, just your work shirt's fine. But the general professionalism of
Have a shirt.
yeah. Well, I've had some calls without shirts, and I'm like, oh, just okay. I don't know. I'm gonna turn off the recording. I feel uncomfortable recording this. So just general professionalism, right? And that's one thing you and I talk about, and we hold in high regard at Augusta is, hey, if you're going to take someone's time, like that is a manner of respect, like be on time and utilize that time effectively. Don't book a slot on someone's call or someone's calendar, and then not show up for 20 minutes or just no show. Mm-hmm. If someone no shows, that's like an automatic. Like I always send an email. I always give someone 5 to 10 minutes to show up. I'm like, get it. You're a business owner.
Yeah.
I shoot an email that says, hey, not sure if you know, but we have our call right now. Haven't seen you join the Zoom room. Let me know if you want to reschedule. Based on their response to that email, I'll let them reschedule or not.
Yeah.
If they don't respond and I see their email again, like they're just not going to get another call. If they respond and they're apologetic or something came up, totally fine. Here's the link, reschedule. Yeah. So those are a few of the red flags.
They're the same people that will eventually cancel coaching calls
Yeah,
last
yeah.
minute. They won't show up to training on time. They won't come to conference. And
Yeah. They'll ghost us in general, right? If you're ghosting someone on a first impression, like what's to say over the next 10 years, you're going to show up on time all the time, communicate
It's like if
effectively.
the first date goes bad.
Yeah.
It's not getting any better once you put the ring on the finger, buddy.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And that's what I tell people, too. I say, hey, this call is just as much you getting to know me in Augusta as I'm getting to know you.
Yeah.
And I ask them, like their personal life, spouse, kids, what do they like to do with their free time, and I try to break the ice and like, hey, I know it's a video call. I just want to try to get to know you as best as I can. Tell me about, if you have a spouse, you have kids, like that's cool. Some people, that are very open, want to share their life story. I think that's cool. It just shows vulnerability up front. Not saying I need to hear your life story, but it's like, okay, like you're telling me like what brought you here, what your motivations are. Like you got kids, you want to provide for them. That's awesome. Like those sort of things. Or the people that are a little bit more short or a little more rash. It's like, look, like it's just a conversation. Like I'm not prying. I'm not with the FBI. Like I'm not with the ATF. Like chill out.
What's the ATF?
Alcohol, tobacco, and firearms.
Okay.
I don't know.
Anytime Fitness?
No. Oh yeah, nice. No, ATF's catching a lot of smoke recently.
Oh really?
Yeah. So.
Yeah, and I think like one of the things I would look for when I was doing them was like really good questions, or they had done a ton of homework.
Yes.
Right.
Yep. Yeah. When people have questions, I mean, you send out videos to folks. If I think they're a good fit, you'll send out a personalized video to them, and you'll notice typically I'll put in there like great questions or was very prepared or would be a good fit. And those are the people that, critically think, ask good questions. Don't jump straight into the numbers questions. Like, you need to know what the fees are, but how is Augusta going to support me in 5 years? Where do you guys see the business in 10 years? Like what brought Mike to X decision, right? Those questions are great. They're thought provoking for me, and it gives the person interviewing like more information, more behind the scenes. So.
Yeah, and I think there's been 2 times I can remember where in the first 5 minutes they wanted to join and I was okay with it, and it was in part because like they had done all their homework, they had come to multiple conferences, they had talked to other franchisees, and it was just a matter of like I'm ready to join. Like I've crossed all these bridges, I don't have any questions, and I'm ready to join. Yeah, and then it's just a matter of like validating like their homework. Yeah. But a lot of times like that's a reason why we somewhat have conference is for people to come and like get validation, talk to other franchisees, and get more comfortable with the idea and learn a lot of things that otherwise have to go in the calls. Like I feel like my first, the first 20 or 30 locations, I was answering such basic questions that now like we have FAQs on the video. And like if they don't watch those, it's also another red flag. Like if you're asking about the monthly fees, it's like, look, it's literally a video and we have multiple explanations with graphs and charts and expectations and all the rest of it. So if they've done their homework, it's a big thing for me because I know that they're going to do the same thing on a coaching call. They're going to come with their numbers. When they come to training, they're going to have good questions. When they come for conference, they're going to like have certain people they want to talk to and network, and they're going to create WhatsApp groups with the local people in their area. Like that's the type of people that we're looking for. So Kevin Cohen and Jason Evangelista are the ones that within the first 5 minutes were like, I'm joining, and what do you need from me? And I'm just like, well, like let's ask a few other questions, but they had done their homework.
Yeah.
And there's other people that say that, and then like you do a little digging, and like they don't know how things work. They haven't talked to other franchisees and things like that.
Yeah, yeah. I'm trying to think if I have any like that right away from the get they wanted to join. Logan Albers did, but he wanted to talk to you.
That was like right around the
because it was right when we switched, right when I started taking the calls.
I think I had talked to him talked to him like 6 months before.
He was like, I want to talk to Mike. I was like, all right, fine.
And then it was weird. Like, there's this weird. Yeah, I remember like right at the beginning. There was there's a balance between someone being decisive, because like we do value that.
Yep.
But then also someone that has like weighed everything out. They understand every single aspect of it. And I think the people that, for example, that take 8 months between calls, there's definitely a question mark around it. It's like, hey, look, I've reached out to you. Did you have any questions? And then, or they say they're gonna join, and then it's like, okay, great. Here are the steps you have to sign this, you have to pay this, blah blah blah. And then you don't hear from them for 8 months. Yeah. Like, are those the type of people that are going to do the same thing? They come for training, they get set up, and then all of a sudden we don't hear from them for a long time. And those are usually the ones that don't do well. And they struggle to get past 200,000.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think once we get to the point of you saying you want to join, I send over, Command Center sends over the invoice. That means like you want to join us and we want you to join. Like if you get to the point where you've been sent an invoice, that means I have vetted you. Other franchisees have vetted you, because if you're listening to this and you want to join Augusta, just know when I tell you to reach out to franchisees, they reach back out to me and let me know if they think you'd be a good fit or not.
Right.
They will go, hey, had a call with this person, they'd be a solid fit. Had a call with this person, some yellow flags. They had some interesting things that they said about that they're currently doing in their business, might want to verify, right? So if we get to the point where you've received an invoice from us, like we want you to join. We want you are in. We want you as a part of the team. And if you don't respond to that, then it's like, that's ultimately your choice, and that's fine.
And I know there's at least one I can remember of where we thought the person was a go, but then the other franchisee did not think so. And so we basically told the person joining, like, hey, you've got to talk to this other person, like the franchisee, enough to where they're comfortable and like they think you're a good fit. Because we think you are, but they see something different. And I don't know if they've joined or not. I don't want to.
I don't know. Yeah.
But But like we basically made it like, look, until that franchisee thinks that you're ready, then you're not joining.
Yeah.
And mostly we do that when they're close to each other.
Yeah. I also kind of, pull back the curtain, if you will, is when a franchisee tells me like he'd be great, like I really want him to join. Then I'm like, great, now I have to sell. Like, now I have to put my salesman hat on, because really I try to not make it sales. Like, yes, I work in franchise sales. Like at the end of the day, that is part of my job. But to me, it's not a sales process. It's making them feel comfortable. It's making sure their business would be a good fit for Augusta. It's making sure that their lifestyle, their family would benefit from joining Augusta. So it's not until a franchisee says like, this person's great, like get them in, then I like put on the salesman hat and really try to close people.
Yeah, because like as long as the franchisee is staying inside their territory, having other territories around them, assuming that they're not planning to do their own down the road, is super beneficial, because you got other people now spending marketing dollars around your market, and there's gonna be trickle over. There's gonna be people that work in that to market, but they live in your market. So we've always seen like there's a lot of positive things for other franchises to be around you, assuming that you're not wanting that territory down the road. And that's why we always have to be careful. It's like, okay, are they saying they don't really think they should join because like they're next door and they want that territory in a couple years, or is it a legitimate concern that we need to address?
Right. Yeah. So. And the last thing I'll say too, if you want brownie points, if you're trying to join Augusta and you want brownie points, offer free labor to a franchisee near you. Yeah. All right. And that's what I say on the calls is I say, hey, if there's a franchisee within driving distance of you, I can't guarantee anything, but reach out to them. Say, hey, can I come check out your setup? Can I come check out your shop, whatever?
But give them free labor.
Yeah. That's almost a shoo-in. Like if you're willing to show up for a day, work hard for free. Like, and all the franchise owners that have had someone show up, they usually like buy that person lunch or like sit down with them and like have dinner or whatever. Thinking of one in particular who's coming to training in November. Shout out Bramwell. He went and did free labor at Connor's location for a day. Then I think Connor took him out for lunch or dinner. And I was like, what brownie points, dude? Like he just went and worked hard.
Because it's a lot of times franchisees will give to potential franchisees just to get them answer questions and all the rest of it. So like great. Ask all the questions you want, but please hop in the truck with them and give them something because like there are definitely ones that are willing to help and they are very giving.
Yeah.
But it's like an hour, 2 hours on the phone can be a lot of time. So like hop in the truck, work with them, and ask all the questions you want. And like, that gives us a lot of confidence that they're not going to be a taker all the time. And that's like an important value with Augusta is like look, we're in this together. We're helping each other. And the way that we have the franchise fee set up is like just because you're big doesn't mean you pay more. So therefore, you are expected to like help and contribute to other people that are coming up underneath you, and then people that are moving to a market, they're going to also contribute to you. Right? The truck goes down, like you're going to let them have it. Like those are the type of people that we want to work with.
Yeah. Like the one thing I specifically say is when I'm going through kind of the closing spiel of the call is I'm going to send you a list of franchisees, shoot them an email. The reason I want you to do that is we want to see you take a step into the community and show that you are trying to be a part of this team and that you're trying to learn from others. You need to reach out to them. I say it's a required process is reaching out and having a conversation with an existing franchisee. Yeah. So they know that that's the rule. So.
Good stuff.
Yeah.
Cool. Did you anything else you want to talk about? Or are we going to non-financial advice?
Where are we at on time?
18 plus 22.
Did you want to talk about
40 minutes?
Do you want to talk about
I forget what it was.
$100 million leads?
Oh yeah, sure.
Alex Hormozi? We can keep it brief.
Cool.
All right, we haven't brought up his name in a while, actually. I feel like the first 10 podcasts I was really drinking the Kool-Aid, is Alex Hormozi. So he is about a month ago, I think at this point, he released his new book, $100 Million Leads. Hand up, I have not read it. Yeah. I've been a little off the Mosey train. Still love him. Awesome resource. Watch a lot of the content. Just taking a step back, if you will. So you have read it. What is your initial reaction to $100 Million Leads?
A lot of it, this one, because his first book he wasn't known. Like he had 15,000 subscribers or whatever. So this book is definitely more polished and refined, and there's huge amounts of value. I had dug enough on Alex to actually know most of what he's talking about. Cool. So if you had consumed all of his content and gone really, really deep, you got probably 80% of what is in this new book. You'd have to listen to everything, right? And so I had really done that over the past, prior to this year. And so 2022. And that's when then he started writing the book, especially this year. So, I think it's really, really good. I think that the part that I have a desire to do is make some of that more applicable for the service-based businesses where labor is a bigger component and your gross margins are lower. And so that's the only thing I would warn people about is he deals with info businesses typically, right, and licensing models where your gross margins are higher and then your fixed costs are higher. Whereas in service-based businesses, our fixed costs are very low typically. You have rent and insurance. You don't have big fancy facilities or rent and space, et cetera. But then your variable costs are very high. Yep. And so that does change the dynamics of how you do advertising. And so I might talk a little bit about it at conference and not really, I won't bring up his name, but I want to bring up balance because 90% of people reading that book come from the info space, content space, selling courses, and that's what they invest in majority of their stuff into is sales, marketing, advertising, more white collar. And so when you take things to blue collar where the vast majority of your revenue is gained through labor revenue, your fixed costs go way down, but your variable costs go through the roof. Right. And that changes the dynamic of giving things away for free, how you do a referral program, how you do affiliates. There's a slight difference. And I would just say that it's all very good. It just needs to be somewhat taken through that filter. And but it's a good book. I like it. Yeah.
Any major takeaways that you're going to apply to the writing style of your book?
Yeah, 100%. That's what I got out of the book.
Not that you're going to steal or plagiarize, of course, but
no, what
style.
What Alex did that was interesting with the book is he basically took everything in his book and then he did it for his book launch. And he wanted to prove what was in the book through his book launch, right? Cool. So again, book launch is just different than, and doing a webinar and a live launch like he did, is just different than selling mowing services, right? So that's the differentiation I want to make for business owners versus influencers. It is different. But when I look at the way he launched the book, that's where I'm taking notes. And so definitely I've already started testing my titles with my audience on my stories.
I saw that. Sweaty business. People did not like sweaty business.
Hey, you got to throw it out there, see what sticks, dude. So, and then even when I do my next book, it'll come out with courses that are free. Cool. And then I'll do a live launch and specific things for them. Obviously I'm nowhere in terms of magnitude to what Alex is doing, but I want to create a piece of content, i.e. a book that is I feel wraps up everything I've learned in the past 10 years. And I feel I've taken stabs at Pay for Performance book. I share a little bit in, what was the other book I wrote? I don't even remember. It's like a fable.
Wait.
It was like a fable, Zero Turn.
Oh,
It was
Zero
like,
Turn,
It's
yeah.
more like a fable of me getting started and like struggling,
Yeah.
whatever. But like I want to write more of a nonfiction, well edited, really well thought out, and include a lot of my doodles and my drawings. And so I think it'll be really good. And then I think I can make a really solid course, give that away for free, and then. I just want to document the past 10 years.
Yeah.
This is what I learned in the first 10 years, and I wrote every word of it, and I did all the work. Whereas in the past, I've used other people because it's more technical writing or it's more creative writing. Whereas this is like nonfiction. This is like what I've learned, and like here's the frameworks that I've always tried to use.
Yeah, that was one of the funny moments for me was when I was reading P for P. I was like, wait, I wrote this. I was like, wait, I wrote these paragraphs.
Yeah. Well, I just kind of compiled a whole bunch of different people and their perspectives, and like it was more technical in the fact that like we needed math and we had charts.
Oh,
and,
yeah.
Explaining P for P. Whereas now it's like I want to like go into my Remarkable and like look at all the doodles I've ever made and like really start to bring those to light.
And yours is going to be more on concepts.
Yeah, much more framework.
Yeah.
Very similar to how Alex thinks. Like that's why I like Alex is because like him and I think in frameworks and like everything should go through a framework kind of thing.
Yep.
And so I have them that I've drawn up before, and I've shared a few of them at conference and things like that. But I want to like kind of dig deeper into them. I'll make them where like any home industry can kind of use them, home service industry, and I just think it's good enough for a book, and I want to do my own and like something that I'm proud of.
What's the timeline like on this guy?
So I've now got myself the person I'm going to work with for the book on the book.
Cool.
And oddly enough, it's the same person Alex uses.
Yeah.
So it'll be a much longer process than I had anticipated, but it'll be well thought out.
It'll be polished.
When it comes out, like I'll be excited.
Yeah.
It will not be like for example, the book that got published on August 4th, 2016 was the day I got underneath the dump truck and got hurt. That was Millennial Millionaire, but like it wasn't a big deal for me. I didn't even know it got published that morning because it was just like something I did. I wanted to figure out the process of publishing and just kind of like tell my story. So this one, I'll be working very hard on it. It'll be a lot of work.
That's cool.
And I think like it won't make any sense financially for at least a year or two. I think though that it'll bring in an audience that would never have heard about Augusta or watched YouTube or been on social media that I think would be valuable to Augusta Nation.
Yeah.
Whether it be people that have existing businesses that don't do social media but they listen to books and they read books. I want to tap into that.
Yeah, it's like compounding on all of your content.
Yeah, and
Just
so like if you have
avenue.
a fan over here, like watches videos in the fan, the exact opposite is someone who reads books and never goes on social media.
Yeah.
And I want to hit them because I think there's a really valuable person there.
Yeah.
That could be brought into Augusta Nation.
I agree with that. Cool. I'm excited for the book.
Cool. Non-financial
Not
advice?
financial advice.
Okay,
Let's
dude,
jump in.
go ahead.
I have some,
Okay.
and it's a quote.
Okay.
So it's just a quote is your non-financial advice from
Okay.
Lee, and you can try to guess who
The
it's
book?
from. It's from a book
Okay.
in our Audible account.
Okay.
The goal or target does not matter as much as the mindset that is mandatory to accomplish the goal.
Oh, dude, that's good.
It's a good quote.
That's a good quote.
It's not a new book. not new by
I'm
any
going to
means.
say that is either A, the book that I don't know names, but I know like book covers.
Yeah.
So it's something mindset is the title. So it's not that one.
Oh well, man, I don't know if it's a.
And it has the
oh
face
no
of
no
like
no
a
no.
a coyote. Okay, that's not that one. So then the next one would be.
I'm looking at the
Tim
subtitle.
Grover's book.
Nope.
What?
I think this is gonna surprise you.
Oh, really?
That's why it's kind of fun.
Interesting. Okay, go. Who?
It is the 10x rule by Grant Cardone. The only difference between
he's
success
in
and
some hot
failure.
water right now.
Yeah.
He's
Well,
getting sued, and I don't. Do you want to talk about the lawsuit?
we could. Yeah.
Yeah, so he's getting a class action lawsuit basically for overselling Cardone Capital and then like pretending that he went bankrupt and telling his investors that he did when he really didn't. He did it for publicity during COVID. And so he's in some hot water. But I am taking notes on it because I do believe that one day, instead of franchising, I'll just take in-house and just start taking locations myself. And I'll use a capital structure like he's doing with Cardone Capital. But I'm looking at all the mistakes, right? So I'm like, okay, he oversold. He did a lot of drama stuff. He allowed unaccredited investors. And the person that actually leading the class action lawsuit, invested $5,000.
Oh, dude, that's brutal.
So like allowing a non-accredited investors where they're investing their last dollar because you pitched them on something is very risky compared to like going to accredited investors where, you know, 100 grand is the minimum. They have to have certain income thresholds. If you flush that money down the toilet, they would come sue you, but they're not going to sue you for 1 year of underperformance because of something like COVID.
Right.
And so, yeah, I'm just taking notes because I do believe in the future that like I'll be like, okay, great. We get to 1,000 locations in 15 years and we keep doing this slowly, or do I do it in 5 years or 6 years and we go capital play? I own all of them from a corporate perspective, and we raise funds and then we distribute to investors. And so I don't know what that calls, but I've always said like I'm gonna move up software and then we'll play capital play, and then that's probably when robotics will come. Yeah. And so and then we just have more control too, because like my locations always follow systems. They have to, or people get fired. And so it's just the brand as a whole, I think, would be elevated just by having way more control and having more corporate locations. Yeah. So like that's way down the road. It's definitely like something I'm watching though from his what he's going through.
That's fair. So
and don't go on stupid private jets and massive yachts and brag about how much money you're making when you're going through a class action lawsuit. Like, don't do that.
That's like my least favorite. Hey, great quote. Bad time to bring up his name. That's my least favorite Cardone ad, is the one where he's on the jet. He's like, "Do you ever see somebody on a private jet?" And like, "I got a jet. I'm sorry." And I'm like, "What? I don't." You just lost me. Skip ad. But hey, 10x rule. It's good. It's a good mindset book. I wanted a little inspiration this last weekend. I was like, hey, I'm feeling like I'm kind of just going through the motions a little bit. I was like, I need to re-inspire myself, and I thought that was good. Goal or target doesn't matter as much as the mindset. Yeah.
I think we could scale massively. I think it'd be a great move for us to be able to do that. And the 10X rule put him on the map.
Yeah, totally.
The same way that $100 million offers put Alex on the map.
Totally.
So my hope
that
my book is something that just kind of gets outside of our industry and the current imprint and impact I'm having, and just reaches other people.
Yep. Yeah. You got any non-financial advice?
Yeah, non-financial advice. Again, in the vein of books, Elon Musk's book biography just came out.
Oh, yes. I heard about
from
it.
Walter Isaacson.
Yes.
Which he's awesome. He did Steve Jobs' book.
Yes.
It's extremely long. So I'll listen to it. I'll chip away at it. I want to say it's 18 or 20 hours long. But I'm really looking forward to it because it's all new. And it's like it goes all the way up until like through his acquisition of Twitter and what's happening with them, and like very interesting stuff.
Okay, we'll both listen to it and then we can do a.
It's gonna take you a while.
Yeah.
No, it's gonna take me a while, I should say.
So it's gonna take us both a while. Yeah.
I listened at 2.1 to 2.2.
Yeah.
But still, like I still think this morning I had 12 hours left, and that's at 2.1.
Yeah.
I just got started on it,
but
like so far so good. But that's not financial advice.
I like it. I'm like a 1.7, 1.8.
Cool.
Past that, it's a little too fast.
Yeah, I just feel like I'm getting things done more. I'm like, dude, I'm just like chewing through this book.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Cool. Well, thanks for listening. Like and subscribe.
That's the pod.
Cool.